Good morning, beloved friends, and welcome back to Daily God Voice Jesus, your sanctuary for soul-stirring messages straight from the heart of Christ. Today, we're embarking on a journey that might just redefine how you see the promises you've long forgotten. If you've ever felt like life has buried your dreams under layers of regret or resentment, this one's for you. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's uncover the forgotten promise, how one act of kindness unlocked God's hidden blessing. Picture this. It's a crisp autumn afternoon in the quiet town of Willow Creek, where the maples blaze like flames against the sky. Our story centers on Elias, a weathered carpenter in his late 50s, whose hands, calloused from decades of shaping wood, now tremble not from age, but from the weight of unspoken pain. Elias had built a life on solid oak, a thriving workshop, a loving wife named Clara, and a son, Jonah, whose laughter once echoed through their home like birdsong at dawn. But 12 years ago, tragedy struck like a thief in the night. Jonah, fresh out of high school and full of that reckless fire young men carry, borrowed Elias's prized truck for a joyride with friends. One slick curve on a rain-slicked road, one split-second decision, and everything shattered. Jonah walked away with scars. The truck was totaled. But worse, the accident claimed the life of a young mother, leaving her husband, Marcus, a hollow shell of a man, drowning in grief and rage. Marcus, a school teacher who'd always waved hello to Elias at the local diner, turned that wave into a wall of fury. He sued, he screamed in court, he spat accusations that painted Elias as negligent, as if Jonah's folly were somehow the father's fault. The courtroom became a coliseum of blame, and though the judge ruled in his favor, the verdict couldn't mend the fractures. Marcus sold his home, moved across town, and became a ghost. Whispers said he drank to numb the nights. Jonah, racked with guilt, fled to the city, enlisting in the military to escape the eyes that judged him. And Clara? She faded quietly, her heart breaking under the strain, until cancer claimed her 2 years later. Elias? He hammered away in his workshop, but the joy had splintered. His once vibrant faith, rooted in Sunday sermons and midnight prayers, withered like untended roses. "Where's your promise of restoration, Lord?" he'd mutter to the empty rafters, his Bible gathering dust on the shelf. The town moved on. Elias became the man folks crossed the street to avoid, a living monument to what unforgiveness does to the soul. One stormy November evening, as thunder rattled the windows like impatient fists, Elias heard a knock that pierced the gale. He opened the door to find Marcus on the stoop, soaked to the bone, his eyes hollowed by years of torment. No words at first, just a crumpled envelope thrust forward, trembling in the wind. "Read it," Marcus rasped, his voice like gravel under boots. "Then burn it if you want. I can't carry this anymore." Inside was a letter, penned in Jonah's careful script, dispatched from a desert outpost halfway around the world. It confessed everything. The fear that had grouped him that night, the bottle of cheap whiskey shared among friends, the prayer he'd whispered too late. But woven through the remorse was a thread of light. Jonah had survived a roadside bomb in his tour, pulled from the wreckage by a medic who quoted Psalm 34, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted." That verse, he wrote, had cracked open his armored heart. He'd forgiven himself, or tried to, and now begged his father's forgiveness too. "Tell Dad," Jonah ended, "that the wood he taught me to carve isn't just for tables, it's for bridges. I want to build one home." Marcus's hands shook as he explained. A chance encounter at a veterans support group had connected him to Jonah months earlier. No malice now, just two men forged in the same fire of loss, trading stories over weak coffee. Jonah's letter had arrived that week, addressed to Elias, but forwarded through the group. Marcus, in a moment of raw vulnerability, had volunteered to deliver it personally. "I hated you once," he admitted, rain mingling with tears on his weathered face. "Blamed you for my wife's empty chair. But holding this, it made me see. We were both fathers, both broken. And maybe, just maybe, God's been waiting for one of us to bend first." Elias stared at the ink-smudged page, the words blurring through his own rising flood. For the first time in years, he didn't recoil. Instead, he stepped aside. "Come in," he said simply. "Let me make coffee, black like Clara used to brew." They talked till the storm broke, dawn painting the sky in hesitant gold. Elias shared stories of Jonah's boyhood, how he'd whittled his first cross from driftwood at age 8, declaring it a Jesus stick to ward off nightmares. Marcus spoke of his late wife, Sarah, whose laugh could coax blooms from winter soil, and how grief had twisted kindness into a weapon. Laughter crept in, tentative as a fawn, when Marcus confessed he'd once tried carpentry himself, only to build a birdhouse that collapsed under the weight of its own ambition. By morning, something shifted. Elias pulled his dusty Bible from the shelf, its pages whispering like old friends. He turned to Matthew 5:23 and 24, Jesus' words, sharp as a chisel. "Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift." Elias read aloud, his voice steadying with each verse. "See, Marcus, Christ didn't just preach forgiveness, he lived it. On that cross, he looked at the very ones nailing him and said, 'Father, forgive them.' If he could bridge the chasm of betrayal, what excuse do we have for letting grudges rot our roots?" Marcus nodded, the lines on his face softening. "And Colossians 3:13, he added, surprising them both with the memory. "Bear with each other and forgive one another as the Lord forgave you." It was Sarah's favorite, scribed in her journal, a beacon through her illness. In that humble kitchen, over cooling coffee, they forged a pact. Elias would phone Jonah that day, mending the miles with words of welcome home. Marcus would join him at the workshop, learning to plane edges smooth, not just wood, but wounds. And together they'd craft a memorial bench for the town square, inscribed with Sarah's name and Jonah's Jesus stick cross, a seat for weary souls to rest and remember God's redemptive hand. As weeks unfolded, Willow Creek watched a miracle unfold in plain sight. Jonah returned, his uniform traded for overalls, and the three men, father, prodigal, and once foe, hammered side by side. The bench became more than timber, it was a testament. Folks gathered, drawn by the hum of healing, sharing their own buried hurts. Elias's workshop buzzed anew, not with orders, but with purpose. And his prayers? They flowed like rivers after rain, alive with gratitude. Friends, here's the marrow of this tale, drawn straight from Jesus' blueprint for the broken. Forgiveness isn't a footnote, it's the foundation. In Luke 6:37, Christ commands, "Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven." Elias forgot his promise to trust God's timing, but one act of kindness from a man he'd wronged unlocked the blessing hidden in plain sight. It's a divine echo of the prodigal son, yes, but fresh as today's mercy. God doesn't wait for perfection. He moves in our mess, using even our enemies as emissaries of grace. What promise have you forgotten? That grudge nursing in your chest? That dream deferred by doubt? Lean into Christ's message today. Extend the hand first. Watch how rivers of restoration flow. You're not just surviving, you're sculpted for something sacred. Thank you for joining me on Daily God Voice Jesus. If this story stirred your spirit, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a bridge today, and subscribe so you never miss our next dive into God's whispers. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What's one act of kindness you're committing to this week, inspired by Jesus' call to forgive? Your stories fuel this community, and who knows, they might spark tomorrow's message. Until next time, when we'll explore a tale of faith amid the flames, stay blessed, stay bold, and remember, God's voice is calling you home. Grace and peace.